So the next person I have is John. John's from Seattle. And John asked a very interesting question, which I think is going to resonate with a lot of people. And that is, what is the best way to develop sales staff to ensure consistent follow-up routines, especially with seasonal customers? So it sounds to my ear like John's asking us about touch systems, Jack, which I know is a particular speciality of yours.
Yeah, and so I the first pushback would be somehow he articulates seasonal customers as if that makes them unique or different, or we should handle them differently. Maybe that's because they are handling them differently. In other words, just because they're seasonal doesn't mean that for the 8 months that it's not in season, they don't get touched. That would be stupid. So for me, I don't want to rely on humans. I don't want to rely on memory. I don't want to rely on a salesperson who has their own style. I'm a system and process guy. And, you know, in today's world, one of the advantages that we have over 20 years ago is there's incredible contact management software at very affordable entry fees that we can systematize all of that. And when you're talking about that touch system, and that really is my answer, is we need to think about it more from the standpoint of the mediums in which we touch those customers and the content with which we touch them. And all too often what happens is so many companies and salespeople rely on one or two mediums. Maybe they make a phone call, or maybe they outreach with some kind of a LinkedIn type of an approach, and that's it. And then the content is usually all about their company. And for me, that's a fail. So if I want to stay regularly in touch with people, I'm going to talk about personal visits, email, voicemail, snail mail, a phone call, all of that as a mix. And in the software, we can time each one of those so that it makes sense. And then what am I going to do content-wise? You know, one of the things that I'm doing with one of my clients right now is this guy loves book recommendations. Well, I read over 100 books a year. So book recommendations for me are left and right, boom, 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 boom. And I even tell him, hey, this one you probably should read on paper in the traditional book format. This one you probably ought to go with the audio because of this. And my client is, every time I talk to him, it's like, man, I love when you give me these these recommendations. That has nothing to do with teaching him about sales, curing his problems. It's building a relationship and finding a way to stand out different from my competitors. But all of that stuff, Morné, is all built into the system, and it just goes automatically. So the sales organization, salesperson doesn't need to think about it. It's happening, and they should be touched at the same time with, we just sent this out, we just did this, we just did that. So we're not caught by surprise.
Absolutely. No, a touch system, as you know, Jack, I tell this story from time to time, is probably one of the very first things that I implemented after you and I met. And it was the catalyst for growing my business across 3 different continents and now more than 30 different industries. That system and process of touching people with more than just, oh, hey, it's Morné. When are you thinking of signing off this proposal? Oh, hey, it's Morné. Can we have a catch-up call this week? You know, where we're burning goodwill because salespeople are unimaginative about those touches. And you're dealing with human beings who don't want to hear from you if the purpose of your touch is only to benefit you and not them. So figuring out how to do it in interesting ways, fun ways. I now carry a money bag, which is something that you talk about and have been talking about for a long time. I have my cards in there. I have my stamps in there. So I have ways to touch people even when I'm on planes. Even if I'm close to a post box, I can put a handwritten note in there. And then using the CRM has been a game changer for me, where I think the one thing that I did, again, based on what things that I learned from you, is I got myself an assistant who works in the Philippines, and he will trawl the CRM to look for birthdays, looks for different things, sends me a report on a Monday morning and says, Morné, here's what's happening in your prospect base this week, your customer base, your client base, with your swim coaches. You need to touch them. Would you like me to help you set up the LinkedIn message, the emails, the text messages? And then all I have to do is click send, 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 send. And everybody in all 4 of my databases feels like I am like an octopus that doesn't sleep when I'm touching all of these things. But I've recognized that to quote Jack Daly, if I don't have an assistant, I am one.
Hey,
So
hey,
use the
Morné,
technology and get an assistant.
let me override you here. In February I had a birthday, and on social media I probably heard good tidings from 1,000 people. Let's just say,
Sure.
and I'm enriched by that. But snail mail, a real tangible card, I probably got close to 100 of those, but the one that stands out more than any other is the one from you. And it was, I took the effort, Morné took the effort to identify half a dozen photos of you and I doing different things over the past couple of years. And then you just type something in on the card, and it was all done with a piece of software. I get that, but it's sitting. My birthday was in February. It's now April. It's sitting in my office at the top of the pile, and I look at it every morning. And it has nothing to do with business, and it has everything to do with business. Personal
Absolutely.
touches on uniquely being able to stand out from the pack. And if we can do that with content, and we can do that with things you know about the person, then you just left your competitor in the dust.